Thank you for joining us for 3Bs on the Law podcast, hosted by Trisha Barita, Camille Canali, and Susan Dawson. Disclaimer, this podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only, not meant to provide legal advice, and does not create an attorney-client relationship. Also remember, laws change or they differ by jurisdiction, so this is not a substitute for seeking legal counsel in your jurisdiction on the current law applicable to you. Hey, welcome to the 3Bs on the Law podcast. So today we're talking about schools in session, which some people are very excited about across America, and some people have a lot of concerns, both on the employer side, the parent side, the superintendents, the teachers. There's been a lot of discussion about whether schools should be in person or virtual. States have made decisions, school districts have made decisions. And so this is obviously a very hot topic right now, probably the hottest topic in America, because, nothing's more important to everyone than the kids and the teachers and trying to figure this all out. And so as we kind of wade into those issues today, ladies, what are your thoughts on schools in session?
I think it's a complicated issue, and I think it really depends upon what your school district is doing and what options your kids have. Can create tons of issues for employers, and I think that potentially we're going to see a lot more FFCRA claims.
Or expanded FMLA claims. I mean, that's the question is, I'm a mom, but I'm also a business owner, so I can't really separate the two. And so as a mom / business owner, it's a challenging situation of where we're going to be. I've got 3 children. 2 are in a hybrid situation and 1 is in full virtual. So it'll be challenging.
Yeah, I mean, just the challenges from the virtual are, quite difficult. I saw a podcast recently with some of the heads of the schools around here in the Houston area, surrounding districts. And, they talked about the issues of virtual and going virtual, which was a real challenge for those schools and those teachers. Many teachers that maybe the technological savviness of it all wasn't something in their wheelhouse, and wasn't something that ever needed to be a part of being a teacher. And then all of a sudden, it was like a light switch, those schools went virtual. And it looked different. And they even have said that even the virtual pieces are going to look different. A lot of the schools around here are going to actually hold true in session. It's not going to be sending work home. And they're actually looking to be like, you need to be sitting in front of the computer with the teacher in this sort of virtual class situation, and a little bit more organized. They've had some time here. So I expect that the schools have plans of how they're going to be handling the big concern that I see how it wades into, of course, our FFCRA is the quarantine issue. Just recently, I was reading an article, I think it was in CNN, where they cited that 2,000, in the recent schools that have opened, 2,000 teachers and parents ended up quarantined for 200 and something cases of COVID. So that's the reaction. You have the cases of COVID and then the quarantine, which is a massive amount of people, and the schools reacting to that. And then, of course, who are we talking to, right? Our employer business owners reacting to the employees getting the call, hey, come pick up your kid because your kid's quarantined now for 14 days. Surprise.
Well, and what happens when your child has COVID and now has exposed the family, and then potentially the parent goes to work and exposes others at the office. So this creates a whole host of other issues just beyond getting your child educated, but it could potentially also lead to exposure across, multiple different venues.
It could be the most serious situation that we've seen our employer or business owners in, especially in these states that are shut down, where we see just a lot of random quarantines because of the situation of the schools making these calls on the quarantine. Basically, the business owners and the parents aren't going to have any say in any of that. Kids are going home. Somebody's got to watch them. You can't call grandma, right? Or grandpa to watch them. So there's going to have to be some flexibility. How are our employers going to handle that, especially our employers that are dealing with employees that may be used all or a large part of their number 5 reason in the FFCRA, that EFMLA.
You mean under the Paid Sick Leave Act, right? So the number 5.
Yeah.
Right. So
is caring for his or her child whose school or place of care is closed or child care provider is unavailable due to COVID-19 related reasons.
Right. I think that in March and April and May, a lot of parents thought it was short term. They were just making it work. They were doing the best they could. They were working. So they didn't necessarily take that leave at the time. Now we're faced with a full potentially a full semester of work from home or schooling from home, sorry. And the parents being home. And I mean, I can speak from my own personal experience when this happened and I was home and having to work. We were with Illinois shut down and I suddenly had 3 kids shut down. It was really challenging, but I mean, I guess I'm a business owner, so it didn't occur to me to ask for leave, but I think a lot of employees at the time were more worried about keeping their jobs than asking for leave. And they tried to do the best they could. Now we're facing an entire semester and these working from home parents are thinking through what it means. I think that the education at home is different. You know, in the spring, it was largely watch this video. My children had homework like that or schoolwork like this. Listen to your favorite song. And that satisfied a requirement. That was in the spring. I don't know that that's going to be the same in the fall. So I think for business owners to say, oh, well, you didn't take leave in the spring, therefore you don't need leave now, isn't the right answer, right? We need to look at the facts over again.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I think the Department of Labor has already said they're not, the facts can change, right? Go ahead, Camille.
Well, I think in the circumstances too, in the spring, people were just getting by and everything was new. And I think that now, especially in California, where we're looking at potentially at least a semester for most people at home, and for the people that can work at home to watch their children, there's a certain amount of fatigue that comes with that in terms of trying to juggle all of these things that maybe people can no longer tolerate. So you have to look at that. And I also think that the age of the children and how independent the children can operate by themselves is a factor. So, older teenagers are able to get on the computer and do their homework themselves, assuming they're motivated to do so, whereas younger children need more guidance and direction to get those classroom assignments completed, which could be a factor in terms of the involvement of an employee that's working at home. And then you also have to consider the employees that are able to telework and care for their children versus the employees who aren't able to telework, like people in a manufacturing plant or that work in a store that have to be present to do their jobs. And so there's all kinds of factors that are going to have to be weighed here as people have to stay home and educate their children.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, Camille, because when we really break it down, if we go through our FFCRA, right, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, right, and look at all the different reasons, you could potentially go through a large majority of these reasons, just one family, being quarantined, someone being sick, parent just needing to stay home to care for a child. And so it is kind of, this may be the most use of the FFCRA that we see employers trying to figure out all these different pieces of the leave. Of course, a lot of people, certainly here in Texas, a lot of the employees have used the 2 weeks of the initial. So they may only have the number 5 reason for the care of a child being a care provider unavailable or the school being closed. So that may be a major issue that employers are facing when the 2 weeks are already used up and those other reasons aren't available. It's not like you can say if someone has COVID, okay, well, we're no longer, going to stay home now because we don't have any of the FFCRA leave. They're still going to have to stay home, and how are employers going to handle that? I think we all have agreed before talking about this. The Department of Labor has emphasized flexibility, but exactly what are the employees' rights?
Right. I think that employers need to revisit their learning on what FFCRA, the Family First Coronavirus Act, leave means. Because there's the paid sick leave component, which is 2 weeks. And then there's expanded FMLA, which is unpaid for 2 weeks. And then the remainder 12 weeks of the 12-week period. So an additional 10 weeks, right? But that's part of FMLA. So have they used FMLA? It's not an additional FMLA. So, they need to revisit those lessons they learned back in March and April and May. And what I'm seeing when I'm talking to business owners, they are forgetting, and rightly so, because what business owner or executive or HR professional hasn't been hit with 10,000 different situations than they've ever had to deal with before in their career? So when I say they've forgotten, I'm not trying to shame anybody. There's a clear reason, but it's time to revisit those webinars. It's time to revisit those lessons that they learned. What is paid sick leave under the FFCRA, and what is expanded FMLA? And so if they've used their paid sick leave, do they qualify for expanded FMLA now? What are the age of the children? Over 14, under 14? What does that mean if they're over 14? Are they over 18, but they're disabled to the degree they need care? Yada, yada, yada. I mean, there's in-depth webinars and discussions on what that means, and they need to revisit that. They need to understand, is there another parent involved, right? If we have two parents, then flexibility is required not just on the employer, but on both employees. And if both employees are teleworking and we have two parents that can take care of the child, we need some flexibility and some ability to help with the children from both parents if it's possible. So there's a lot that the employer needs to revisit here, and they can't make a flat decision. And employees can't say, my kids are going back to school, therefore I cannot work, I need expanded FMLA. No, that's not the answer either, right? Let's look at the facts, let's figure it out, let's see what we can do.
Right. I think we need to stress that each situation needs to be looked at as an individual situation. This is not a blanket one-size-fits-all answer for every employee, because every situation is a little bit different. And so the Department of Labor, the EEOC, everyone has said, let's be flexible. But at the same time, for example, I haven't seen much guidance on those students who are going to have hybrid situations where they're in school part of the time and home, other parts of the time. And what happens in that situation? Can you, take the leave a couple days a week? Do you have to take it all at once? I don't know what the answer is going to be from the DOL. So my hope is, and I think Tricia, you were saying before we got started that you hope there's going to be some guidance on this issue also.
Me and every employer that talks to me or attends a webinar I do. It's just, we're all looking, they all, I wish I could certainly, the girls have had me recently watching The Wizard of Oz. I certainly wish I could poof magically make this answer come to everybody. Right. Tap those ruby slippers and we'll be home and have the answer to schools. But we don't. It's certainly unknown. It's a stay tuned. We'll certainly do another podcast on this, I'm sure, once we do. If the Department of Labor happens to be listening to our podcast, could you please update everybody on the hybrid situation that we think is out there? And when we say hybrid, we mean hybrid. Like, it's all crazy. The hybrid isn't just like what Camille suggests, of course, where we've got the Monday, Wednesday, Friday group where they're in school, and Tuesday, Thursday, they're virtual. We've got a hybrid situation where, maybe they're virtual for 9 weeks or 3 weeks, and then they're in school. And so they're all over the place across America. There is no uniformity. Besides parents in general freaking out about trying to figure this whole thing out, employers are trying to figure out how it's all going to react to them. Certainly, especially here in Texas, we've got it being school district by school district. So you could easily, in the huge city of Houston and the surrounding areas, have employees in like 5 different school districts, all being handled different ways, all being needing to request intermittent leave in different areas. the nightmare of all of this, unfortunately, has just begun. But if the Department of Labor is listening, please consider answering some of our questions, and we'll just keep putting them out there, and we'll be hoping and praying that we do see them talk a little bit more to this hybrid issue that we really didn't see. I think we all agree back in the spring, and it is going to look different. I think we all have to say thank you to our teachers and all the people leading these schools and trying to figure out this position. Certainly, it's not their fault that this is sort of the mess that it probably potentially is going to be, and trying to sort it all out. And the employers have to be patient and understanding. The parents certainly would rather have all the kids back in school, frankly, right? I mean,
well, I think everybody's doing the best they can.
Yeah.
And I think that, that's what the expectation is that everyone will do the best they can with what we have to work with. And unfortunately for the employers, some of that is going to trickle down and be reactionary to how the school setup is for a particular employee's kids.
I think they have to be careful about not giving leave, because of course we all know, being lawyers, that can create, the denial of leave, where leave maybe should have been given, can create an issue of litigation here under these.
Correct.
So be thoughtful about that. We don't have guidance. There's a lot of God forbid that I actually say this, but COVID, it maybe isn't going away in 2020. So as the FFCRA.
In our last podcast, I'm pretty sure you said COVID was ending on
She
December
did.
31st.
She did. She gave us a deadline. I'm fairly certain there was a
I'm
deadline.
fairly certain that was you.
Which podcast was that?
It was a joke. You were talking about how some people say that there's a deadline.
There have been pending proposals to me that people believe that's true.
Right.
But I think what's interesting is we all know the FFCRA expires December 31st. We have a presidential election
Right
going
now.
on.
Right now, it
Yeah.
expires December 31st.
Right now. But I said we have a presidential election going on, which will add the politics to all of this, of course, which, schools, of course, has not been untouched by the political issues, just like masks in this country. And so we'll see all of that play into this as to what happens to our FFCRA. I think we'll probably assume that there will be some expansion, and what exactly that looks like and who's in charge. Who knows? We'll be running this ship then. And so I guess stay tuned. Do you guys have any further comments on where we're at right now with schools opening?
I just want to point out something I don't think we emphasized enough, and you mentioned it a little bit in passing there, Tricia, which is intermittent leave. The fact that it's not an all or nothing, right? That expanded FMLA leave doesn't mean you get 12 weeks off full stop. It might mean that there are certain portions of the day you're on leave and other times you're not. So again, flexibility, both on the employer end and the employee end, very important that both sides are flexible related to the leave and what's genuinely needed both for the business and for the parent.
True. I think that's a great point, Susan. So that's a wrap of 3Bs on the law, schools in session. We'll be back with you on this issue, I'm sure, before you know it. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for joining us on today's podcast of 3Bs on the Law. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast. We also welcome any comments. If you'd like to get in touch with us or suggest a future topic, you can email us at 3THREEBsonthelaw@gmail.com. And because we're lawyers, we need to remind you that this podcast is not meant to provide you with legal advice and does not create an attorney-client relationship. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great day.